All right, here we go. Finally, good connection, guys. Sorry about that. Welcome to another episode of Sports in the Mitten, powered by Mr. Spots in Ann Arbor. I'm your host, Adam Biggers, Michigan and Michigan State beat writer for FanRag Sports, and we're going to talk about this Michigan-Indiana game. Finally, had kind of a rough window here. For some reason, my internet's acting up. I had to restart my computer and my router and all that stuff. This rain's getting it all kind of funky. So yeah, we're talking about Michigan's 27 to 20 overtime win over Indiana. I predicted it would be 24-10. I thought that Michigan's defense would basically steal the show, and I think for most of the game this afternoon that it did. If you look at the statistics, I mean, Indiana scored 10 points in the fourth quarter. The first fourth quarter points Michigan has allowed all season long. So before we get started, I'll open up the chat room. And MIC Book says, "What's up, Adam? We won the dogfight." Yes, Michigan did win the dogfight. MIC. I'm gonna go ahead and tweet the live link right now before we get started. And I want to remind everyone, uh, you can find the audio only version of the podcast if that's what you prefer on iTunes. It's on FanRag Sports Blog Talk Radio channel and Google Play. You can follow me on Twitter at AdamBiggers81. You can follow the podcast at Mitten Sports MI, and you can follow FanRag Sports at FanRag_U and at FanRag Sports. So let's get it started. I have the live chat open, and we'll start with Matt the Destroyer 2. Why in the world is Peters not starting? The season has gone away. Just think about the future and put Peters in. It's the season isn't gone away. Matt, Michigan's 5-1. And John O'Korn was the winning quarterback today. I know that you guys want to see. I mean, John O'Korn was not good today. He was 7-11 in the first half, 10-20 for 53 yards, 10-20 on the day for 58 yards. But if you don't, it's like this for a reason. Wilton Spate was the starter because he was the best quarterback. John O'Korn was the number 2 because he was the second best. Brandon Peters is number 3 because he's the third best. Michigan is not sitting on Brandon Peters, knowing that he might be able to do a better job than John O'Korn. For the hell of it. Jim Harbaugh is putting the best quarterback on the field, and that's the problem. It's not. Michigan just doesn't have a good quarterback situation. That's plain to see. I mean, I thought what we saw John O'Korn do against Purdue was kind of what we would see a little bit more of him do. And other than that scramble when he found Donovan Peoples-Jones for the 17-yard gain in the first quarter today, I mean, John just does not look comfortable back there. I don't know how else to say it. So if you think a third stringer is going to come in and do a better job, I think you're living in fantasy land a little bit. I mean, I can't justify it. I mean, John O'Korn is the best quarterback available for Michigan right now, and that's just the way it is. So Ernest Latham says the right side of the O-line looked good in the run game. Yeah, the run. I mean, and it's the run game. The offensive line run game as a whole is going to look pretty good when Karan goes 25 times for 200 yards and 3 touchdowns. I mean, I thought Karan Higdon was incredible. He carried the offense. There's no question about that. The defense was in there too. We'll talk about the defense and get with your guys' questions. But yeah, Karan Higdon was by far the MVP for Michigan today. Marcel Wood said we are missing Wilton Spate's moxie. I agree with you on that, Marcel. MIC Book. We got well over 100 yards rushing, and that counted a lot toward the win. Oh, absolutely. And I mean, and again, I mean, we're looking at Karan 25 carries for 200 yards, 3 touchdowns along a 58. He averaged 8 yards per carry. Ty Isaac had 7 carries for 38 yards along a 13. He averaged 5.4. Eddie McDoon had 1 carry for 12 yards. Kareem Walker had 1 carry for 8 yards. And Chris Evans had 8 carries for 5 yards with a long of 10. So 271 rushing yards on the day. I don't think we have to look at any stats. That's a season high for Michigan. And obviously that's a career high, 200 yards for Karan Higdon. So Matt the Destroyer 2 says 200 yards and 3 touchdowns. There's our number 1 running back right there. I mean, yeah, right now it's Karan Higdon. And guys, they'll go with the hot hand. I don't know if they're ever going to say, okay, this is the number 1 running back, other than what Harbaugh said at Big Time Media Days in Chicago when he said it was Chris, Karan, Ty, then Kareem. That was the pecking order. That's all we're going to get. Right now, it's whoever's number 1 is the guy who's performing, and that's Karan Higdon. And I do think that Karan's been the most consistent out of all of them today, or this season. And it's easy to say that after today when he goes for 200 yards, scores a touchdown in overtime, and so Kareem Walker Had only one carry, but he looked great. Yeah, Kareem is their best between the tackles running back. At least he was entering camp. That's what Jim Harbaugh said. So Spencer Kramer says, saw some drops from the wide receiver tight end today too. Passing game is struggling. Yeah, I was Spencer. I was really surprised to see Sean McCune drop that ball. I mean, that was right to him. I mean, it was a short route, right along the sideline. I think it was a quick slant from the tight end spot, and he just dropped it. It's not like him. The penalties, guys, too. The penalties. Not only, I mean, as a whole, offense, defense, but I mean, as a whole, Michigan had, and this is by far the most, this might be the most penalized game Jim Harbaugh's ever coached. I'd have to look at some stats for that, but it's by far the most penalties Michigan's had, 16 for 141 yards. And Michigan entered Saturday, with 35. Leaves Saturday with 51. Michigan had 63 penalties all of last year. So let that sink in a little bit too. Zach Bass, like the fish, says we can't just run against Penn State and the better team. You think we stand against the chance against Penn State? No. No, I don't, Zach. And that has nothing to do with today's decision. Michigan just doesn't have the offense. You could play great defense, and Michigan played great defense today, but if you're still kind of find yourself screwing around with a team that's got a little bit of life offensively, which Indiana does. The Hoosiers averaged 400 yards per game, number 10 in terms of pace of play. I mean, they were going to use the tempo and get some yards. There's a pulse there. And, I mean, I don't care how good the defense is. Eventually, your offense is going to have to start scoring some points. And, I mean, we're looking at the 6th game of the season. I mean, Michigan's defense still giving up 20 points was still pretty good. I mean, I was going to say spectacular, but that's probably a reach. Was still pretty good if you take away the 10 points that were scored in the fourth quarter. That was just, and I think that if anything, that was just Michigan. At some point or another, I have to believe that the lack of offense is going to wear on the defense. And I think maybe we saw a little bit of that today. Four Masterful says, I don't know where to begin. Take your time, Four Masterfuls. Take your time. Sean Hull says, hey, Adam. Hey, Sean, how are you doing? Cameron Clark, Adam, why the hell can't we just play Peters? Cameron, it's not going to happen, man. It is not going to happen. They're 5-1. They still won today with John O'Korn. Okay, I know you guys want to see a switch at quarterback. It's not going to happen. John O'Korn will have to get injured or have to just continue to play like he did today. I mean, I don't care what the circumstances are. And I mean, John's a good guy. You talk to him, he's a really good guy. You know that he's competing. He wants this, but I mean, after Michigan State, you give him a pass a little bit. Okay, it's the weather. He faced a pretty good defense. Today, I mean, you can't give him a pass. 10 of 20 for 58 yards and 7-11 for 53 yards in the first half. You just can't give him a pass. John O'Korn's, and here's the thing, if John O'Korn is still the quarterback and he can't get it done, and they're still not going away from him, what does that say about the guys behind him? I mean, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen, guys. Rock City said, Adam, we barely won. Yeah, barely, Rock City. Dan Kronk says, Devin Bush is the best linebacker I've seen wearing the winged helmet since Larry Foote. That is high praise, Dan. Go Wolverines says they won with John O'Korn today, throwing for 58 yards. Exactly, Go Wolverines. I mean, John O'Korn's a quarterback. That's not going to change. Hanak Missiker says, play to win the game. Harbaugh, too conservative late in games. Rock City says he's so over O'Korn missing his targets. And Rock City, I'm assuming that you're a he, so correct me if I'm wrong. Cam, how the hell can he be worse than O'Korn? I mean, if he was better than O'Korn, he'd be starting, right? So I mean, that's the pattern, guys. That's the logic behind it. I mean, I think we expected a change. Seeing Juwan Bushell-Beatty, I think Nolan's probably, Juwan's going to be the starting right tackle from here on out. I expected to see some change at right tackle this week, but I mean, other than that, I don't think you're going to see any other changes. Matt the Destroyer 2 says we should see Peters either if we are getting up big and he's coming in, or we can't get up big. And yeah, I mean, I agree that there is a time for Brandon Peters. And ideally, that time would have been with a healthy Wilton Spate, an offensive line, without all these offensive troubles, and you get a chance. to get Brandon some good snaps in a game that you should be, blowing out a team. And I'm not saying Michigan should have blown out Indiana. I said be cautious. Even though I predicted 24-10, I mean, that was pretty much the pace of it until about midway through the fourth quarter when Indiana woke up and Michigan made some mistakes. But I expected it'd be kind of a grinder game like Purdue, to where, yeah, 24-10 result, but it wasn't going to be, anything, where you're like, okay, well, Michigan just had absolute control of this game the whole time. It was going to be a tough win, and it was for Michigan. Matt the Destroyer 2 says, Harbaugh started Kaepernick over Alex Smith. Right now the Chiefs are 4-0. Kaepernick can't get signed. But, I mean, but Matt, what does that have to do with anything? I mean, if I would have bought the winning lottery ticket yesterday and scratched off the numbers, I'd be rich, right? I mean, I just can't align myself with that kind of thinking, I guess. To me, it's just not logical. The reason why Brandon Peters is not starting is because Brandon Peters is not a better quarterback than John O'Korn right now. That's the bottom line. Four Masterful says, can we please stop it? This is a good comment. I like this one. Can we please stop throwing fade routes to McDoom? Is he showing some Braylon Edwards type of grabs in the air at practice or something? I don't know. We don't see practice. But Four Masterfuls, you have been a strong opposition when it comes to the fade routes. I think you have been the guy. You're Mr. Fade Route. Can we just say that? Mr. No Fade Route is Four Masterfuls. He's been against He's been against the fade routes for about, what now, 3-4 weeks? I think even when Wilton was quarterback. So, Matt the Destroyer 2, Tom Brady didn't start over Drew Bledsoe until an injury. Is Bill Belichick's too? I mean, come on, man. What is that? You're trying to compare Tom Brady. This is completely different. We're NFL, college football. You're talking about a Hall of Famer and two college quarterbacks, Matt. I understand that you want to see Brandon Peters, but I'm telling you why that you're not going to. Zach Bass says, time to saddle in for the rest of the year. Bound to get rough with our upcoming games. Bound to get rough. Hope I'm wrong. It's going to get rough against Penn State. Cameron Clark says, still waiting for a dominant quarterback. So much for the QB whisperer. I'm waiting too. I almost feel like now, looking at the quarterback situation and with Wilton Speight getting injured, think back to those first 9 games last year. It was almost like a cruel tease, wasn't it? You're like, okay, if you're a Michigan fan, you're nodding your head. I know at first you guys didn't want him, but then when he started playing well, you guys wanted him. And then, okay, yeah, this Wilton Speight kid, he's going to be pretty good, 9-0, playoff bound, loving it. And then, he gets injured, doesn't play too well at the end of the season because he was not fully healthy. And then, this year, slow start. And I'm thinking back to those first 9 games last year, and I feel like it was a cruel tease of what was supposed to come for the Michigan quarterback position. We should be right now, and of course you can't. Well, it's not Wilton Spate's fault that he got injured, but I think right now at this point of the year, I anticipated talking about Wilton Spate being an all Big Ten quarterback, this offense clicking. I mean, it hasn't happened, and it's not gonna happen with Brandon Peters or Dylan McCaffrey or Alex Malzone. I mean, John O'Korn is the starting quarterback for a reason, and that is when I say that, then that's why you should be concerned about the rest. Like, okay, then why aren't these other guys even in consideration? Well, it's because they're young, too. Dylan's a true freshman, early enroll. Brandon in the second year, so. Aaron Quinney says, I hate to waste a good defense with such a bad offense. Our D can hold up against anyone. We just need an average offense would make Michigan a pretty good team. Wouldn't it? We're seeing a far below average offense. I think it was like the 8th rated passing offense in the Big Ten, and that's just not going to cut it. Parth Patel says, how many quarters do you think this D will hold up against Penn State before they're worn down physically and mentally? That's a good question because it's going to be a night game. And these guys, they got what, I won't say all they could handle against Indiana. For the most part, Michigan's defense had this game under control if you take away the fourth quarter a little bit. But, and really, it's not like Michigan's defense was getting worn down physically because they forced 5 3-and-outs in the second half. I mean, they weren't on the field very much. I think ABC. I didn't travel to Indiana. I think ABC said something toward the end of the game. The defense had been on the field for like 53 snaps or something like that. So, and this was getting toward the end of regulation. So it's not like they were just out there forever like Air Force, having to just grind every down like that. But at the same time, I have to believe that the defense is now getting fed up. I mean, if I were a defensive player, I would have been fed up a couple weeks ago. I know that they want to be PC, they want to support their teammates and things like that. But I mean, this defense is not going to win games for Michigan. I mean, it's going to keep Michigan in games. The offense, it's to the point now where the offense needs to kick in if Michigan's going to win games. Michigan is not going to win games. It's not going to beat Penn State playing the way that it played against Indiana. It's not going to beat Wisconsin that way. It's not going to beat Ohio State that way. And I mean, this is, like I said at the beginning of the year, a 9-3 team. I think was a fairly fair and realistic prediction. Craig Ashcraft says, "Hey Ed, hi Adam. Play Peters a snap or two in case something happens. I knew you were on board with Harbaugh, but Peters can hand the ball off." So, well, Craig, it's not so much with me being on board with Harbaugh. It's me being on board with logic. I mean, put yourself in his position. I mean, you're not. I mean, for kicks and giggles, you're not going to say, "Hey, I want to just ruffle the feathers of the Michigan fans so much. I want to make these games interesting and have the offense struggle." So, Brandon, just sit tight. You're better than John, but it's not. I feel like a lot of people are living in a fantasy world when they think of the Michigan quarterback scenario. It's not. I mean, it's not like they're like saving Brandon Peters for some grand debut or something like. If Brandon Peters was the best quarterback that gave Michigan the best chance to win, Brandon Peters would be starting. Matt the Destroyer 2 says, "Our defense wins games. When we say we have no offense, doesn't mean we aren't going to get points on offense." The defense has won games up to this point now, but I mean, the defense isn't going to win a game against Ohio State, Wisconsin, or Penn State if there's no offense. I don't care if Tyreek Hill has 3 pick sixes. It's not going to happen. There needs to be offensive production. Talent-wise, this should be, and last year we looked at a team that scored 40 points per game. I mean, these guys, watching Michigan's offense is, I mean, I'm trying to think of something without just coming off like a complete. I mean, it's like watching like paint dry on a wall or water boil, or I don't know. There's more action when water boils actually. So I don't know. I mean, watching this offense is pretty bad considering all I mean, you have a running back who just went for 200 yards. And that's not a fluke thing. I'm not saying that Karan Higdon's a guy who's going to average 200 yards per game, but it's not like Karan Higdon just all of a sudden said, "Hey, I'm going to be a good running back today." Karan Higdon's always been a good running back. You have the tools there. You have tight ends who have made big plays all year. I mean, John O'Korn transferring to Michigan, he was going to be the next one. I know everybody wanted John over Wilton last year. I mean, if you just look on paper, you see all these statistics, these percentages, and then you see what's on the field, and you can't justify it. I made a comment on Twitter. I thought that screen pass that was in the third quarter to Donovan Peoples-Jones was a great play call, but he wasn't able to break loose. So, of course, it didn't work. It was a bad play call. If it would have worked, it would have been a great play call. So, I mean, I don't really think that this was necessarily even a game that's on play calling or coaching. Again, guys, it boils down to execution. Poor execution by Michigan. Cameron Clark said he should have made Fisher offensive coordinator. Sean DeBoer says everybody wanted a QB switch so badly. I know, Sean. I know. Everybody wanted, hey, Wilton Spade, get him out of there. John O'Korn. Well, you got John O'Korn now, and you don't want John O'Korn. Matt the Destroyer 2 says, we had the best defense in the country, and one running back got 200 yards. We still went into overtime. Yeah, I think Michigan still does have the best defense in the country. I don't think there's any arguing that. I mean, every team, Clemson's got a really good defense too, and I mean, it had a hiccup and lost to Syracuse, 27-24. I still think that Michigan's defense is better than Clemson's, but I mean, to say, one game doesn't automatically say, oh, well, Clemson's defense is trash. It just gave up 27 to Syracuse. Michigan's defense is trash. It gave up 20 to Indiana, 10 in the fourth quarter. I mean, it's the sixth game of the year. It was the first time the defense, even showed any sign of bending. I'm not even going to call it breaking. And again, you're not getting any help from the offense. I mean, push comes to shove, and something's got to give. Matt the Destroyer 2 says MSU offensive play calling is unforgivable. Well, I mean, you have to also consider the weather, which I don't know why you're passing. But I mean, they made the play calls they saw they thought were best fit. Rock City says a longtime Michigan fan, the conservative play calling is nerve wracking. Zach Bass says no blame for Pep. He is a passing game coordinator, sketchy. And Zach, I'll go back to this because people have asked this and I've referenced this before. At the end of the day, the offensive play calling, the final say is Jim Harbaugh's. Matt says the defense did good, 4 plays on the 2-yard line, and we stopped them. Yeah, I mean, I thought, and if you saw it too, I think it was the 3rd down play. It was a play right before Ramsey threw that interception in overtime to Kinnell. Rashawn was out there doing the Dikembe finger wag. They just stuffed him on 3rd down, and I think it was maybe a 2nd down. But the defense knows that it's the show, right? These guys know that they are it. And I think it's pretty evident when they're on the field. And if you got, I mean, Mo Hurst, that blocked field goal today, I know it's special teams, it's not defense, but Mo Hurst, I mean, that play, proved to be, I mean, had Indiana made that, then maybe we're talking about Griffin Oaks nailing a 46-yarder at the end of regulation to win it. So I think you have to talk about Josh Metellus, too. He had 6 tackles, he tied a career high, saved a touchdown on that return, had a big 3rd down stop, then that forced the 3-and-out punt. So, I mean, there are a lot of aspects on this defense where you have to, even after today, even after 10 points in the 4th quarter, first points given up in the 4th quarter all year, still a lot of stuff about the defense where you have to say, like, damn, this is a good defense. And there are so many pieces to it. So, you can hang your head on that, Michigan fans. Aaron Quinney, how is Peters not better than John O'Corn is the real question. Not a high bar John O'Corn is setting. Well, I don't know. That's a question for Jim Harbaugh. I'm sure Jim's going to be. Sure, he was asked a lot today post game. I'm sure Monday when it's time for his press conference, they'll ask. I mean, I have questions about quarterback situation too. So, D Cookster 1 says Peters can hand the ball off and throw for 58 yards. That's ridiculous. O'Corn doesn't go through progressions at all. Well, I mean, yeah, you could hand the ball off, but I mean, do you really think D Cookster, I don't know how else to say it. If he was the better quarterback, he'd be in. I know, but it's easy for us to sit back and go, well, the next guy's better. Oh, Brandon Peters, he could go in there and throw for 58 yards and complete 10 or 20 passes. Why isn't he playing? Well, if he could do that, he would be playing. That's why I look at it. Tyrone Sensi says, I sometimes put a tissue. Come on, Tyrone. Why do you do this, man? Get out of here. Tyrone, you started asking like good questions before, and then these past couple times you've just been on some whack job stuff, man. I'm gonna ban you, block you out of here if you continue comments like that. That's stupid. GBF89 says O'Corn being a senior should make better reads. You would think so, and I mean, again, we're looking at a guy where there's all kinds of hype and 3,000 yards passing at Houston, all freshman of the year in the American. And, man, he's the answer. He's the guy for Michigan, right, when he transferred in. Oh, can't wait for John O'Corn. And, I mean, he's done it, so it's not like he can't do it, but he's not doing it now. And it's Big Ten. It's a different scenario. I don't know. John O'Corn, only John O'Corn knows why John O'Corn is not playing well. Only, the coaches know. I don't think this is, I mean, yeah, John O'Corn's not making reads. He's missing some easy throws. I don't know what else to say about it. He's just not playing well. For Masterfuls, Ramsey outplayed our senior quarterback. That's pretty disheartening. I agree. I really like this Peyton Ramsey kid. I think he's pretty good. Sean Holst, one word to describe O'Corn's play, chaotic. All right, let's play this game with Sean. One word to describe John O'Corn's play. I'm going to say discombobulating. Feel free to chime in, guys, if you could come up with better than chaotic, which is pretty good. Hits the nail on the head, Sean. Discombobulating. I just like that word. Zach Bass is disappointing. Yes. Rock City, O'Corn seems uncomfortable in the pocket. Yes, he does. Matt the Destroyer 2, one word, disappointing. D. Cookster, prediction for next week. Penn State 49, Michigan 10, going to be a beatdown. And that's what it was last year. Reverse scored in Ann Arbor. It was earlier in the year. Penn State was not yet as good as it became later in the season, which was really good. Won 9 in a row. Won the Big Ten championship game. Played pretty well against USC in the Rose Bowl and only lost, it was a shootout, 52-49. I think it was a game-winning field goal. But yeah, it's not. I don't think it's going to be pretty for Michigan. Michigan, I will say right now, Penn State will beat Michigan. And there's no, we'll wait for this to click. I mean, it's weeks. This is the 6th game. They're 5-1. It's a night game at Penn State. Penn State is really good. Penn State's not Indiana. Penn State's not Purdue. Penn State is Penn State. Hashtag analysis. You guys like that? That's some deep analysis right there, huh? Let's see. We're going on 27 minutes, guys. We'll take a few more. Jeffrey Debus says 10 for 20, 58 yards. You need to be benched. But, I mean, if that's what the best quarterback can do, that's what the best quarterback can do. Number-wise, yeah, I would say so. But, I mean, I'm almost scared to think what would happen if Brandon Peters was starting. If John O'Corn's only able to do this, what can Brandon Peters do? Harbaugh seems overrated, lots of hype and lack of results, says B-Prob KR. I mean, I don't think that he's overrated. I saw a graphic the other day. Notable coaches through their first 31 games. I mean, Urban Meyer was 24-7. Jim's 24-7. I don't think he's overrated. I think the Michigan fans, just in national media, I think there was a lot of hype going into it, and fans and national media expect, okay, well, Michigan's a national contender right this second now that Jim Harbaugh's there. And I mean, first year going 9-3 in the regular season, beat Florida in the Citrus Bowl. That was a nice win, 41-7. Last year, a potential playoff team all the way until week 9, week 10, and then that loss at Iowa kind of dampened it a little bit. Losing Ohio State killed it. So, I mean, I think the Michigan it's not there. It's a step before being there. And I just don't understand. I mean, what did you expect? I figured it would take 3-4 years. I mean, honestly, 2015, I thought with Harbaugh inheriting a 5-7 team, I thought Michigan was going to be a 7-5, 8-4 team this first year just because. And I was giving him credit. That's a 7 wins compared to 5 wins. That's a 40% increase in wins just because of his coaching. He's going to have the same players, and he was going to have a new quarterback in Jake Rudock. So, I think he maybe exceeded expectations a little bit in year one, and then you go to year two, and people are, see Wilton playing really well in the defense, and you're like, okay, now this has a feel of a team that might be able to compete, and it did. But for that to be a consistent thing every year, I mean, I'm still, this year I did expect strides. I expected some more consistency. I did not expect what we're seeing right now. But I'm not going to go out and say that Jim Harbaugh is overrated yet. I mean, Michigan has no consistent quarterback to play to speak of. The offensive line hasn't been that good this year. Spotty play from running backs. Still 5-1. And has won 2 Big Ten road games. 2-1 in the conference. 2 Big Ten road games. Lost a game by 4 points to Michigan State, in which it had 5 turnovers. So, I mean, Michigan's making a ton of mistakes. I think, if anything, maybe coaching is part of the reason why that they are still 5-1 and not 3-2. Four Masterful says, I would like to see more Gentry and Perriott on the field together. At least give John O'Corn his favorite targets to fail with. When those guys are on the sidelines, he is extremely lost. I do agree with you on that, Four Masterfuls. Preston Prosper says, open receivers the last 2 weeks. B-Prob, KR, I expected the offense to look a little more productive in year 3. I did too. Aaron Quinney says, funny how bad people want Spate back now. I always wanted him. He at least made good reads. Passes were just off target, more fixable than John O'Corn's problems. I agree with you, Aaron. Zach Bass agrees with Four Masterfuls. We're all agreeing with everybody today. It's a happy party of agreement. Dwayne Hill says, better players coming. Michigan will get elite 3 or 4 Big Ten championships in a row, I believe. Hashtag go blue. I'm patient. You have to be patient with these guys this year, Dwayne. Four Masterful says, I would like to see more. Okay, I already read that one. Sorry. D. Cookster was never going to be a world-beating team this year, but expected a little bit better. Michigan's ceiling is 8-4. Maryland will not be a cakewalk. Losses for sure. Penn State, Ohio State, and Wisconsin. Well said, D. Cookster. Craig Ashcraft says, tired of hearing it takes time. The D better under Brady Hope. What? Oh, hold on. Cross comments here. The D replaced all but one starter. Well, and that's true too, Craig. But I mean, we're looking at a defense that's been developed a lot more than the offense. I mean, with Greg Madison, the defensive line. I mean, Don Brown was already inheriting a pretty good situation from DJ Durkin, who inherited a pretty good situation from Greg Madison. And yeah, I mean, and that is fair to say, okay, well, on one hand, people are like, well, the offense is young, it's going to take time. And they're like, well, look at the defense. These are all, sophomores for the most part. Underclassmen, guys who are, who are the seniors on the defense? Fifth-year senior, Mo Hurst. Tyree Kinnell is a junior. Chase Winovich is a redshirt junior. Rashawn Gary's a sophomore. Brian Monet is a junior. Mike McCrae's a fifth-year senior. Devin Bush is a sophomore. Who else am I missing? Noah Furbush is a junior. I don't know. I'm trying to count them all. Count them all out in my head. All right, guys. I'll take a couple more questions, and then I got to cut it off for the day. I'll have a follow-up tomorrow. I'll have a column on, probably going to write on the quarterback situation, I'm sure. And that'll be on FanRag Sports tomorrow, at fanragsports.com, at fanrag_u. And, of course, you'll be able to find it on my Twitter, at AdamBiggers81. And while you're at it, guys, if you haven't already, please like and subscribe my channel, share. Been going strong. Really good viewership on the live streams, and really picking up on the downloads, too, on iTunes. So... D. Cookster says Tariq Black injury was a killer. Receivers can't get it open except Perry. And yeah, I agree with that too. Losing Tariq, I think now you're really starting to see, he was an offensive weapon. Matt the Destroyer 2, who do you think will start next year? At quarterback? I don't even know. I don't even want to. I'm not even thinking about that right now. Assuming Wilton Spate comes back healthy, I've always said it's Wilton's job until he leaves, but I figured he was going to have a good year this year and leave after this year. So, that changes the forecast a little bit. Four Masterful says, I think we ran better with Beatty and Wheatley playing more. I think we should keep an eye on that. Yeah, and if Four Masterfuls, they stacked Tyrone right there on right next to Juwan too, I think to bolster that right side a little bit. And they were able to get a little bit going behind the right side today. For once, right? It's been left side all year. Andy K says, if we lose bad to Penn State, badly, do we give Brandon Peters a shot? Playing Rutgers, Mini, and Maryland might be a good time. Try out. That, Andy, is the only scenario that I can see in the Rutgers. Because I figured Brandon might get Brandon was going to get snaps in that game anyway, even if Michigan's offense was really good and Wilton Spate was playing his butt off. And, that was going to be a game where I think, at least initially, where I thought, okay, you'll see O'Corn, then you'll see Peters. Everybody's going to get a little bit of a turn. But now I don't know, because Rutgers just beat Illinois. So I don't know. Four Masterful says, yeah, our best blocking tight end helps our running back get to that edge. Exactly. Zach Bass says, bet Wilton starts next year. If Wilton Spate's there, he's the starter. If he's there and he's healthy, he's the starter. Unless somebody, Dylan McCaffrey was pretty good during fall camp too. He was right there with Brandon for that 3 spot. So, and he throws a really nice ball. Brandon throws a nice ball too. Zach Bass says, I want the Wilton back from before he was hurt last year. You and every other Michigan fan, Zach. And I could definitely understand that. Kevin Grulich says, if Spate starts next year, that says a lot about our quarterback problems. Well, and I mean, I think Wilton Spate, when he's healthy and not, I don't know what else, timid, I mean, he played timid this year. If he's healthy, he's got a good line. I mean, he was healthy. When he was healthy and had a good line last year, he looked pretty good. So I think if Wilton Spate has the right things around him, Wilton Spate's a really good quarterback. Aaron Quinney says, I'm out, y'all. Time to check my parlays. Go blue. At least covered for me. All right, good luck, Aaron. For Masterfuls, I'm going to end it with you, man. Do you think we see more Kareem Walker next game? Ran hard for the 10 yards. Not sure why he only got one carry. It is really hard to say with Kareem. I mean, it's like we hear like he's going to get. Jim Harbaugh said, Big Time Media Days, Kareem was on the doorstep. And we don't see Kareem, and everybody's like, oh, is Kareem transferring? What's wrong with Kareem Walker? Then he has a 10-yard carry, and Michigan fans are like, oh, Kareem Walker, give him the ball. He's the next guy. I mean, I don't know. That's a hard question to answer. Matt the Destroyer says, great stream. See you, man. Thanks, Matt. And Matt, I'm just telling you, I understand your fixation on the Brandon Peters thing. I trust me. I get it. But my point being is, John O'Korn Michigan is playing the quarterback that gives it the best chance to win, and that is John O'Korn right now. And if Wilton Spate wasn't injured, then it'd be Wilton Spate. So, all right, guys, I really appreciate everybody listening and watching again. Please like and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Share. You can find the podcast on Twitter at Mitten Sports MI. Let me spit that out. I'm having stuttering problems today. You search on Facebook, Sports in the Mitten. Follow me on Twitter at AdamBiggers81. Follow FanRag Sports at FanRag_U and at FanRag Sports, FanRagSports.com. Be on the lookout. My Indiana-Michigan post game, which is basically a lot of stuff that we just talked about. That should be posting here shortly. And I'll have updates from Jim Harbaugh's Monday press conference, live streams throughout the week. We'll have a look at Penn State and Saquon Barkley. And this one's probably not going to be pretty, guys. So this is a week. If Michigan does not figure it out on offense this week against Penn State, then I think that's kind of the writing on the wall for the rest of the season. So it'll be bound for an 8-4, 9-3 finish, and not winning the Big Ten, and that was their goal. So again, everyone, I'm Adam Biggers. Thanks a lot for watching. I appreciate it. I'll catch you next time on Sports in the Mitten, powered by Mr. Spots in Ann Arbor. Thanks.